tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. So let's start. Good day. And
Thank you, Bante.
so please remind us. I know the Spanish will kick in because that happened last time, no? Spanish will kick in, and whenever we notice, oh, we're already speaking Spanish. So please, anybody who noticed, remind us. And the recordings are going to be here. If someone wants to record in audio, if you want to record in your own phone, so later something that when pass by or something, you can listen to it and then we check.
So first of all, good morning and welcome everybody.
Thank you.
Really happy to see you all here, and it's really an honor for us, and very happy to share with you this theme of Abhidhamma, which has been and continues to be fascinating for us. And we have been studying this with our teachers, mostly in Burma and in Macau. And it's really something that is, for me and for us, I would say, so interesting. And it's really has everything to do with us, because our teacher always says that this Abhidhamma is actually about us, because it talks about the mind and the metta, which is what we are, mind and metta. So it's not anything that is outside. Like sometimes subjects like plants or subjects outside also is interesting, but this one for me is very interesting because it has everything to do with us. That whatever we learn, we can see it inside ourselves, and that's actually the purpose of studying Abhidhamma, is to learn and to know how the mind and the matter works and how they are related to each other, so that when we practice, then we can see it inside of ourselves. So before we start, like all the time we do in Burma and with our teachers, we pay homage to the Buddha, which is the great teacher who left us all these teachings for our own benefit and for the benefit of many. So we pay homage to the teachers before we start. And then before starting getting into the content of the Abhidhamma itself, it would be nice to have a little bit idea about the historical background of where it comes from, what is it about, and how it has come to us, so we know what we are studying, what is it about and where it comes from. So we will start with that. So then we have to go back in time, around 2,500 years ago, when the Buddha was alive. He got enlightened at the age of 35. And then after that, then he continues to teach for how many years? For 45 years, until the age of 80, he passed away in Kushinagar. So during these 45 years, then he has taught a lot to a lot of different people, different monks and lay people in many different areas in over in India. And so Abhidhamma is part of the teachings that the Buddha has given. Well, there are some controversy on this point, but then later we will come to this. So during the time when the Buddha was 80, then he passed away in Kushinagar. And after the passing away of the Buddha, all the elders or the close disciples of the Buddha, in the scriptures it says like 500 arahants, which are totally enlightened beings, they gathered together after 3 months after the passing away of the Buddha in Rajagaha. Maybe Andrea and Eduardo went to this cave during their visit to India. So this is the place where the close disciples, the immediate disciples of the Buddha, gathered together 3 months after the passing away of the Buddha. And the purpose of gathering together is to confirm all the teachings of that the Buddha has left, and all the Buddha that the Buddha had taught during these 45 years. And so this is called, actually they called it the first Buddhist council. So all the monks, they gathered together. This council was led by Mahakassapa, Venerable Mahakassapa, and Venerable Ananda, you remember, the cousin of the Buddha, who has very good memory, and then he memorized all of the teachings of the Buddha. So in this time, so Venerable Ananda recited all what he has learned, like sutta by sutta. That's why in the suttas, most of the time you will see that they start with "Thus have I heard." That's because Ananda wanted to say, this is how I heard from the Buddha and what I have learned. Actually, Sayadaw said that heard doesn't mean he just heard it. Actually, he learned it and then he practiced it. But they used the word heard in those times. So thus have I heard, and is to confirm that Ananda said, I'm not inventing anything. This is what I learned from the Buddha. And he said like this, like this, like this. And so in this council, the first council, then all the other monks, which are arahants, and all the students of the Buddha, they heard what Venerable Ananda recited, and then they all said that, yes, this is what I have heard from the Buddha as well, and yes, this is the teaching of the Buddha. And so they confirmed it, all the teachings in this first council. And also at the same time, they categorized it. This is the cave, actual cave in India, in Rajagaha, where the council was held, the first council. And so the Buddha's teaching was divided into 3 baskets. So in Pali it's called Tipitaka. T is like T is 3, and Pitaka is called basket. So it's divided into the 3 baskets. 3 and Pitaka means basket or things to be learned. So it is divided into 3 categories. During the first council, the elders they separated the teachings according to its according to the contents. They separated into these 3 baskets or 3 things to be learned, which is the first one is a Vinaya Pitaka, about disciplines. So actually these are the training rules for monks and for lay people, where you know we have like 5 precepts, 5 training rules for every day, and sometimes we take 8 or 9 precepts for the Uposatha day, which is the full moon day or the new moon day, like to dedicate a little bit more to the practice during those days. And so this Vinaya Pitaka, actually most of it is concerning about the training rules of monks and nuns. So at the moment, we are not going to go into the Vinaya, and all we are going to see is the next 2 baskets, which is the Sutta Pitaka. Sutta Pitaka are the discourses that the Buddha has given throughout his life to different people. It could be a king, it could be a peasant, it could be a it could be a merchant, or it could be anybody that the Buddha met during his lifetime, and he has gave him some teachings, and all these teachings have been recorded in the Sutta Pitaka. And the other basket is called the Abhidhamma, which is translated as the ultimate teaching. So in the first council, the elders, they organized all the teachings into these 3 categories. Then, 100 years after the passing away of the Buddha, there were some disagreement between the community of monks. Then some monks, they thought that some Vinaya rules, they wanted to change something, like the training rules, they wanted to change something, but the elders, and they didn't agree, and then they thought that we should keep the teachings as it is, as the Buddha taught, so they didn't want to change anything. So the other groups of monks who had some different ideas about the practice or the training rules, at the end they left the original Sangha, the original community, and then they separated into another group, which is called Mahasangika. So they separated during this time. Then actually this has nothing to do with the actual teaching. This in this council, it was only about the disciplinary rules, about the training rules, that they have some disagreement. So, but anyway, all the elders, they said, anyway, we have to recite again to make sure that everything is in accordance as the Buddha taught during the time of the Buddha. So in this way, the second council was held 100 years after the Buddha passing away of the Buddha in Vesali. In BC is around 444 BC this time. Okay, then after that, a third council was held 234 years after the passing away of the Buddha, that is 134 years after the second council, another council was held, sponsored by King Ashoka. Maybe you have heard about King Ashoka, right? So King Ashoka, actually, we have lots of gratitude to King Ashoka because of him, many of the holy sites, many of the sites where the Buddha actually gave teachings and many places where the Buddha lived during that time. Nowadays we can still visit because of King Ashoka, because he left the Ashoka pila in the places. Maybe you have seen those pilas. And he left it in the location where the Buddha gave the teaching. So later on, people can go and visit and pay respect in those areas. No, so. In Patna, the third Buddhist council was held because at this time, according to the scriptures, some monks they started to have different ideas and different understanding about the teaching itself, not only about the training rules, but now this time with the suttas, also with the teachings also. Then King Ashoka, in order to protect the prestige, the Genuine teaching of the Buddha, then he decided to sponsor the council and another Buddhist council and have the elders confirm and recite the teachings of the Buddha again in order to make sure that nothing is changed or is added or omitted. So that's why the third council was held in the 309 BC. Then later on, another Buddhist council was held, like 450 years after the passing away of the Buddha. And before this, as the King Ashoka, actually after the third council, he sent the missionaries to different places, and including Sri Lanka. So that's how the Buddha's teaching have spread into other different countries, including Sri Lanka. So the fourth council was actually held in Sri Lanka. 450 years after the passing away of the Buddha. And during this time, the political situation in this area was not very stable. So there were like wars and fights and like that. So many monks were actually, some monasteries were destroyed and some monks had to flee, and then some went to India, and then later on, after the situation became better, then some monks came back from India to Sri Lanka. And at that time, those monks that survived all these difficult times, they thought that it would be difficult now for the future generations to come into memory all the teachings of the Buddha. Because until now, 450 years, all the monks, they didn't have writings until this time. I mean, the Buddha's teaching was not written down until this time. It was like from oral tradition. So the teacher taught the student memorized it, and then they teach their students like that. So it has been in the form of oral transmission. So until then, all the monks, they have all the Tipitaka, all the teachings here in their head. And then, so after this difficult period of wars and things, the elders, they thought it would be now difficult for the monks, for the future generations of monks to remember all the teachings by heart. So it would be good if we write it down. So that's why this the fourth council is actually a very important event, because this is the first time that the Buddha's teaching has been committed into writings. At that time in palm leaves. So it was written in palm leaves. And since there is in Pali, it doesn't have a font. It doesn't have a Pali font. So in Sri Lanka, they have recorded the Buddha's teaching in Pali, but in Sinhali fonts. So you will see in Thailand, they write the Pali words, but in Thai fonts.
Mm-hmm.
But when you read it, it sounds basically the same. So it is Pali, but written in another form. So now we also have Roman fonts of the Pali scriptures, and so it has Burmese fonts and different fonts.
This is a Burmese Pali book, Pali book in Burmese fonts. So any voluntary. We were given this book, so when our teachers come, they can teach us directly in from Burmese to English.
Yeah, so this is the first time that the teachings are written down 450 years after the passing away of the Buddha. But until then, during all the Buddhist council, they have not added anything or take away anything. It has only been a confirmation of what the elders have recorded in the first Buddhist council, which is 3 months after the passing away of the Buddha. So this is throughout the history, it has happened like this. And the fifth council happened in 1871 in Mandalay, in Burma, in Myanmar. So during this time, King Mindong, which is a king in Burma during that period of time, he supported the Buddhist council, and again 2,500 of very learned monks, they recited again all the scriptures as it in 5 months' time. So it's not like in 3 days they finished the meeting. Also, they took 5 months to confirm all the teachings that they have recorded. During the fifth council, King Mindong, after the confirmation, after the elders, after they have confirmed all the teachings, then he ordered some workmen and craftsmen to carve all the teachings into marble slabs. So there is 729 marble slabs like this size. Big size, and then so all the Tipitaka is carved, is written on these marble slabs, and it looks like this. Yeah, it looks like this, and then each one of these marble slabs is enshrined. It's in a little pagoda like this, and there are 729 of these marble slabs, and it is written in Burmese fonts. And it could be Vinaya, root. Actually, they are the 3 baskets. All the 3 baskets are being written and enshrined here. This is Bande. This monastery, maybe you can call a temple, is situated in Mandalay, where the fifth council was held. And actually, this is recorded in the Guinness Book as the biggest book in the world. So how big is this?
One
Wow.
yeah, that is a book. So
Wow.
every, can you go back to the previous? One of these slabs, marble slabs, contains around 2 pages of a book. It's like 2 pages because it is written in very small like this, and then it is covered with paint. So what the king wanted, it is so, imagine how precious the teaching is for the king to say, let's make it onto stone, so many generations in the future, because they knew that the no fire can burn it.
Nothing.
The palm leaves will be destroyed by bugs. The books will be destroyed. So imagine, every of this is around 2 pages. It has the Vinaya Pitaka Sutta and Abhidhamma Pitaka, everything, and commentaries. One of which, look at the detail of one of the pagodas that enshrines 2 pages of the thing. So there, each one has a door. You go in and then you read, and then you go next one. You go down, and then you go to the other one. And now show the other one, China.
In which country?
In Burma. In Burma, in Mandalay. So actually, look at this. So you can see a human being. Maybe
This is one.
This is 2 pages, 2 pages, 2 pages, 2 pages. So it is recorded as the biggest book in the Guinness record.
Where's the index?
There is a place in the center where it tells you. It has
There's also another. These are also all of this.
In the center, around here, one of these buildings, there is a maquette. So you have each of the thing, and then under you have what is on each. So if you are looking for something specifically, then you go, I want to read about Abhidhamma, the 2nd chapter on the thing, you read it. Okay, numbers, so you have to walk you come here. It is really breathtaking, worth seeing. And good news, my dear friends, the monastery of our very good teacher, Seado Ututiwara, it's just a few Mandalay Hill, around here. So we can walk from the monastery to here, and every morning you can go, and it's really breathtaking to see. The most important thing is to see the effort that was put because of the value of what we are learning. can we get onto the head how valuable they know or they knew, everybody whoever did this is dead already, how valuable they knew it is in order to have such a effort, money, people. It is
Amazing.
so this is what we're learning, and hopefully one day we study there, we learn Pali first, we learn Pali and Burmese.
scripts.
And it is really this place is one of our favorites.
Yeah. So this is one of the results of the fifth council. A great effort of Kim and Dong and all the elders and all the people who have worked on this project to confirm and keep the Buddha's teachings alive, not to keep the Buddha's teachings recorded in this way. And then now we come to the sixth council, which was the one that Bante was talking about. And the sixth council actually happened in Yangon in 1954. That was after the World War II. And the minister of Myanmar in that time, the Minister Unu, and then he sponsored this council. The sixth Buddhist Council. And in this Buddhist Council, this is actually quite close to us already, right, in 1954. So in this council, what is special about it is that, as Bante said, monks from 8 countries, 2,500 monks were invited to join this council from different countries, from Thai, from Laos, and from Myanmar, and Cambodia, Vietnam, and also 2 German monks were invited.
But not any
to
kind
this,
of monk. It was not general monks.
Yeah,
it was
they were
the
learned monks.
Learned monks, scholars.
Yeah, so they were invited to this Buddhist council to, again, the purpose, just like all the other councils, were to confirm the Buddha's teaching, to make sure that it has been faithfully transmitted from generation to generation. So in this Buddhist council, you might have heard about Mahasi Sayadawji. Mahasi Sayadaw. So he's a very, he's a great master, and he has worked a lot also for the West, actually, to have the opportunity to get in touch with the Buddha's teaching, because Mahasi Sayadawji, he has sent, for example, Sayadaw Silananda to the United States. Actually, he was also students of Mahasi Sayadawji, and Sayadaw told him, now you go to the States and then you teach there. And so, and then also Mahasi Sayadawji has opened the opportunity for lay people to practice meditation in Burma, because in older times, most of the time, in the monasteries, monks practice meditation, no? And then lay people, they don't really do so much of practice. But then Mahasi Sayadaw, he actually started meditation centers, so people can come and learn about meditation. So both in Burma and also in other in the West, he's a very respected teacher.
So meditation centers started around that time with Mahasi Sayadaw. Something new, when the teaching from all these years before was like only for monks, and Mahasi Sayadaw opened all these things, so it came to us, to the West. It's recent. And also Sayadaw Silananda, he was very young by then, and he was the one who helped make the Sixth Council account. So you can imagine the level, since he was very young, the intellectual level that he was having, as to be put to do that work. He is the teacher of Sayadaw Unandisena, our teacher in Veracruz. So we are very, very, how to say, you can feel it very close, you can touch it. He was the editor, let's say, of the Sixth Council, and he's the teacher of our teacher. So you can feel, I'm saying this in order for us to feel that we are very close to the sources through the ages, has been coming and coming.
So during all the councils, as in the first one, you remember Venerable Ananda, he was reciting the suttas, no? So they have maintained that this tradition. So one venerable, he will ask the question about the Dhamma, and the other venerable, he will answer about the Dhamma. And so in this way, they do questions and answer. In this way, they confirm that all the teachings. In this Sixth Council, why I was talking about Mahasi Sayadaw, because Mahasi Sayadaw was the one who asked questions. he was appointed to be the person who asked the questions. And the person who is the venerable who answered the question was Mingung Xiaoji. Mingung Xiaoji was he is recorded in the Guinness record also because he memorized the whole Tipitaka. And he is in this era.
40 books.
40 books he has memorized it. And so why is this important? It is because that sometimes we say that why do you have to memorize the 40 books if they are in the books and even in the marble slabs for what you have to, why do you have to remember it? So actually this also these masters they memorize the 40 books in order to show that it is possible. Otherwise, how would have since 450 years ago, how would the monks have transmitted all the teachings until now if it weren't possible to memorize it? So they practice and then they read and then they studied and then they memorized everything to show everybody that it is indeed possible. So what has been passed on to us is truly what since the time of the Buddha, what the Buddha has taught, and the monks remembered, and then they taught the other monks and young monks. So when Venerable Mingung Xiaoji, he is when they memorize everything, they are called the Tipitaka Dara Xiado, which means that they have memorized the Tipitaka, the 3 baskets. So Mingung Xiaoji is recorded in the Guinness record, and there are also other monks nowadays in Burma who memorize the whole 3 Tipitaka. Say for example, this Sayadaw, very young Sayadaw, we actually
he's this
met
age
him.
now.
Yeah, we actually met him a few years ago, and he's one of the students of our preceptor of Sayadaw Unandamala Vimsa. And so he also memorized the 40 books, the whole 40 books, the whole Tipitaka. So it is possible. Like there are people who can do this in these days, and but they are not recorded in the Guinness book because there are actually a few, like maybe 9 or 14 venerables in Burma who memorized the whole Tipitaka. But they are not recorded in the Guinness book because of respect of Mingung Xiaoji. So they say, oh, we're not going to pass our teacher, so we're not going to be recorded in that. And so the only person recorded in the Guinness book is Mingung Xiaoji, which who answered the questions during the 6th council. And there is actually a recording in YouTube that we can listen to it a little bit.
So Mahasi Xiaoji makes a question and Mingung Xiaoji sitting there without having the 40 books answers. He says this and this and this and that. And all the other monks, 2,498, are there sitting and saying sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Yes, it was like this.
Actually, there is a recording. I don't know why it's not playing.
Oh.
So it is just a little piece.
So recordings of this moment?
Yes. Recording of the 6th council when Mahasi Xiaoji asked the questions and Mingung Xiaoji answered questions confirming the teachings of the Buddha. So this is the 6th council, which is very close to us. And in this 6th council, another very important event is that a team of venerables, including Venerable Sayadaw Usilananda. They edited all the teachings that has been confirmed during the council. They edited it into very well edited books, 40 books of the teachings of the Buddha and the Pali Canon, and the commentaries and sub-commentaries as well. So this is how, until this generation, we have the access to the teachings of the Buddha since 2,500 years ago. And then now, since we were saying that monks from 8 countries were invited to participate in this council, so they compared, because in Laos they have their they have their recordings, right? They have their own scriptures in their own fonts, and the Thai they have in their own fonts, and then in Sri Lanka they have in their own fonts. So everybody brought their own books, and they said, okay, let's compare it and see what happens. And Bhante.
And so here in any book, you have the teaching all in Pali, and then in the bottom, if you can see very small here, they have differences. For example, one says Vesali, and the other one says Vaishali. So they just write both. Oh, the monks from Sri Lanka says Vaishali, and and everybody agreed with Vesali. So nothing was. It's very democratic. Nothing was excluded. It was not like, okay, they didn't fight over who was wrong or right. They just put everybody's. So you have there was no discussion. So I suppose they avoid a lot of hassle and conflict. So they put, okay, Sri Lanka says it says like this, Indian says it says like this, Thai monk says like this. Everything is there, so nobody fights. And all of this on each page. And when we asked Sayadaw, because Sayadaw, we have not gone through all the books. Sayadaw, what is mainly about? And he said it's mostly about pronunciation. Names, name of a person. Okay, they say it was a different name, and imagine through thousands of years, not a few hundreds of years, and then different culture, different country. Of course, things will start shifting a little bit. So we can be very sure that what we have right now from the Sixth Council is very fiel. ¿Cómo se dice? Fidedigno. ¿Cómo diríamos accurate?
It's the, let's say it's the closest. It's the closest version we can get to the teachings during the time of the Buddha. When Sayadaw Kamsachara, our teacher in Macau, what he explained to us about this is like kind of amazing, because in the teaching itself there's basically no difference. So even it was in Laos or in Vietnam or in Cambodia or in Thailand or in Burma, then the teachings were recorded in the same. It's the same. So in this way we can see that actually it is quite accurate, because in all the different countries throughout the years there is no difference. The only difference, like Bhante said, was like the pronunciation of the names.
And actually the fact that it was spread in different countries makes it a little bit more trustworthy, because if only one change, then you say, of course, only one change. But you have many people taking care of the teaching in different countries. They don't see for hundreds of years. The one who started it didn't say the ones who checked. So then you come and then you acotar, ¿cómo se dirá? Sí, ¿no? Se compares the difference. So this is what we have right now.
Yeah, so this is how the Buddha's teaching has been passed from generation to generation, and now to us today, here in this moment. So this is the one of the important events that happened after the Sixth Council. Alright, so now let's get back to the Pitaka, the 3 baskets. Then we said that we have the Vinaya Pitaka, about the training rules, about Sutta, about discourse, and about Abhidhamma, which is the ultimate teachings. And so now what we will focus is the Abhidhamma here as well, as we know. And let's see a little bit about the word itself, Abhi and Dhamma. Abhidhamma is divided, it's made from Abhi, composed by Abhi and Dhamma. And Abhi itself means excelling or distinguished, and Dhamma means teachings. So it means excelling teachings or distinguished teachings. But it doesn't mean that it is better or it is higher than the Sutta or higher than the Vinaya. Not in this way. It means that it is distinguished, or it is excelling different in the way of explanation. only in the way of explanation, because the topics and the teachings of the Buddha is the same in the Sutta or in the Abhidhamma, but just in the way of how it is being explained is different. It is like a scientist, it is like looking at things in a microscope. So in the way of explanation, it is different. Say, for example, Sayadaw Wokam Sachara, he explained to us in this way. So what's the difference then between Sutta Pitaka and Abhidhamma Pitaka in this case? Then he said, Sutta Pitaka is like a prescription, because the Buddha explained the Dhamma, explained the teaching to persons, to different persons. So
like a doctor.
Like a doctor. So depend on what the person needs, he only said what that person needs. Say, for example, this person, he had a headache, so it's not necessary to explain him how the feet works, right? So he only explained, the Buddha only explained to him like about his what he needed. So that's why in the sutta, sometimes we can see that the Buddha explained things in different ways in different suttas, because it depends on the person who is listening to the sutta. So that's why it's like a prescription specifically for this person to practice. But in the Abhidhamma, it's like a medical study. So it doesn't matter who. And so if you want to learn about the anatomy of the body and of the mind, then this is the Buddha explained it in details of each point of how it works and what is this, what is that. So this is the difference between sutta and difference between Abhidhamma. But then it is so important and very helpful if we know about how the details of the ingredients that we all carry in order to understand the suttas. Because if we know a little bit about medical, about anatomy, then when the doctor said that, oh, you have this, you have that, and then the pancreas, and then the insulin, and this and that, well, otherwise, I have no idea what is pancreas, I have no idea what is insulin and what it does to the body, then, okay, I just take the medicine and that's it, right? but then we won't listen, we won't understand why and how. And so the Abhidhamma is actually the why and how of the practice. So
why we meditate, why it's necessary to study, why we need to learn what the mind has. And as we, in medical field, when we learn about one human being, we learn about ourselves and we learn about everyone, because everybody has the same structure. So the same happens. When we learn the anatomy of the mind, we learn about ourselves, and unavoidably, we will start understanding others, because they have the same structure as us. We know how it feels, what they are experiencing, we become more empathetic. That's why it's unavoidable, says the Buddha, that the more we learn about ourselves, the more the good qualities increase. Compassion increase, love increase, service increase, because we are really knowing what this experience means, and we know what the other experience means, and then immediately all the differences that we believe that are apparent, like male, female, rich, poor, this country, that country, whatever, starts becoming meaningless. We are just human beings, and this is the beauty of exploring the anatomy.
Well, so up to now, everything fine? Everything okay?
Rhythm, okay?
Yes.
Everybody, English, flow, everything, okay?
Yes. Okay. So actually, we only went through the history a little bit quickly, briefly, because just for you to have an idea, you don't have to remember any of these things. You just have to know that where it comes from and what is it, a little bit what is it about. So don't worry about it if you don't remember about it. So just this is the difference between Sutta and Abhidhamma. And so in the Abhidhamma Pitaka itself, it has 7 books. The first one is Dhamma Sangani, classification of Dhammas, Vibhanga, analysis of Dhamma.
Chara, Dhamma, you remember when people ask the Buddha, Master, what do you teach? What is your teaching? And he says, I teach nature. Dhamma means nature. So the Buddha says, I didn't invent anything. Very often we see spiritual teachers who invented something. Or like, how you say, prophets that they envision something on God, some message from somewhere. And the Buddha says, I just teach how the world works. The outside world and the inner world, which is the most important for us, because we live inside. We think inside, we experience inside, we feel inside, and we act from the inside out. So, Dhamma means the teaching, nature, or it can also mean something that happened. Natural phenomenon, that's the word. Natural phenomenon also means Dhamma. So in this way, when you say classification of Dhammas, it doesn't mean classification of natures or of teachings of the Buddha. It means the natural phenomenon. Physical phenomenon, what is happening with the body and what is happening with the mind. I still have many questions about why the Buddha, I mean, the Buddha gave many words, but very often he used the same word, just nature for the mind, nature for the body, nature for the teaching. He only taught that. So whenever we see either with non-capital, how say, lowercase d, mostly is referring to natural phenomenon, and when it is in plural, we can also see that it is for phenomena.
Actually, this plural is kind of an English Pali invention, because in Pali you cannot find Dhammas. So this is like kind of like an S to make it plural, so we know that it is, but actually it is like an English way of saying Dhammas. And Dhamma is there is no Dhammas. And sometimes we also see Chetasikas in the books. So actually in Pali, Chetasika is Chetasika, and then it is singular or plural, but it doesn't say the S is kind of accepted in a way, so that we know it is a lot, not only one, but that it is not like Pali.
So for the 7th council, which is happening soon, they will invite the Western monks and say they will put Western monks say Dhammas. Estos muchachos lo están cambiando. These guys are changing this. But anyway, it is.
Yes, thank you, Bante. I'm sorry if I don't go into details with these points, because I think I have an idea of that you have been coming for a while, so you already know about these things, so that's why I'm not explaining about that. But if there is some points that you do want a little bit of clarification and then a little bit more explanation, so please let us know. So then we will go a little bit deeper into this, because sometimes I might say, they already know about this, so okay, we can go ahead. And so if in case that you need more explanation, just let us know.
And feel free to raise a hand
and just pause. Yeah. Okay. So this Abhidhamma Pitaka, we're talking about these 7 books, but don't worry about it at all. We're just going through them. So you know, to have just like a general knowledge that there are 7 books in the Abhidhamma Pitaka itself. So Vibhanga, analysis of Dhamma, Dhatu, Katat, which is the discussion of the Dhammas. Actually, Dhatu is elements. So this is like the discussions of the elements. Pugala Panyati, about the destination of types of beings. Katawa, 2 points of controversies. Yamaka is a book of question and answers, the book of the pairs. Patana, and then we were talking a little bit about that in the Wednesday class. There's about the 24 conditions relations, the causal relations. So there is these 7 books in the Abhidhamma Pitaka, in the basket itself. 7 books doesn't mean that it is like 7 physical books, but 7 books that are a lot of volumes. Say for example, Patana is a huge volume, and so these 7 books are classified inside the Abhidhamma Pitaka.
Maybe we can say chapters, and then it has many books on
but the books inside have chapters as well, so anyway, so it's like a book with many volumes. Yes. Okay, so because of these 7 books, it's actually not easy to understand by itself. If we just go ahead and let's take the first book, Dhamma Sangani, the analysis of the classifications of the Dhamma, and then we just read it and what is this? Like it will be a little bit like this. So in the 11th century, Venerable Anuruddha Thera, originally from South India, he did a very, very great job of compiling the 7 books. He made a summary, actually. It's like a menu of the whole 7 books. The most important points, he put it into the Abhidhamma Sangaha, which is called the compendium or the menu of the Abhidhamma.
The index.
The index, or the introduction.
Introduction of the Abhidhamma. Is that one, but it's in Russian. Our friend translated it and send one copy. He was very happy because I didn't have the Spanish. I think we are making
Spanish,
copy.
I think it's
inside, so I got the Russian. So it's this is like the index of all these books and chapters. So this is what we are going to study. Just the menu of the restaurant. Later we will choose what to practice, what to eat or practice.
Yeah, so this is actually the key to all the Abhidhamma Pitaka. And
This
most of
is-
the, I would say, if not all, the students of Abhidhamma, they start with the Abhidhammata Sangaha, and then later they go into the books of the Abhidhamma itself, the 7 books. So this is like a let's say like a textbook of the Abhidhamma, and so it's let's see, it's here. All the fundamentals of the Abhidhamma are precisely and comprehensively summarized. It is like a guide to the Abhidhamma study. So this is the Abhidhamma, the Sangaha in Russian, and so this book is the key to understand the Abhidhamma Pitaka itself, because all the main points and all the elements and things are organized in an easily understandable way, and so if we study this, if we complete this book, then even if you read the 7 Abhidhamma books by yourself, it might not be too difficult because you already have an idea what it is about. So this is what we are going to study.
When we say that this is the key, since this teaching is talking about freedom from suffering, total freedom from suffering, freedom from samsaric cycle, well, I mean, that's not the book, not the thing. The content of this book, when we understand all of this, is the key, not just at the end when we get enlightened, but in daily life, freedom from suffering, all the techniques in this book and the 9th chapter, all the techniques are prescribed how to practice what we are going to learn. What kind of meditations? There are 40 kinds of meditations prescribed by the Buddha. Depending on where the mind is, we need to cultivate. If it is doing wrong, there is an antidote for it. Like medicine, if the mind is sick a little bit, is stuck somewhere, and the mind is turning, there is a medicine who helps the mind to go to the other side. So actually, this is not just the key to understand the teaching, because the teaching is search for the freedom from suffering is the key to liberate a human mind from mental and physical suffering, ultimately.
Yes. And the Abhidhammata Sangaha itself, actually Venerable Anuruddha, Venerable Sayadaw Usilananda, he said that this is a book written by monks for monks. So actually, if one does not have some basic understanding of the Buddha's teaching, if you just take the book and read it, it is still a little bit difficult to understand, because it is like a summary, and so it has like a lot of enumerations and lists and tables and numbers and things like that. So if someone just take the book and read it, it was like, okay, like this. So still, our teacher, he still recommend us to study it with a teacher. That's what we did with him. So he explained us with more details and more information, background information, which we need in order to be able to understand this.
We tried, my dear family, we tried to go, when we saw the book and we know all the keys here, let's get the book and let's read it. Man, you can try it. It's open, we have it here. We have many friends who got disillusioned because without the explanation, without the stories, without the techniques, what we are doing Wednesdays, it is really complex. It has many, I will open it, it has many tables and charts, and then when you arrive and they say, okay, here's the description of the mind, and they give you an Excel chart, and then you say, what? What does this mean on my daily living? So, we can get a copy, but we need to go through it. Now, one thing that I want to feel all of us assured, when we went to Seattle, Seattle come, when we met in Macau, and then he started, he's very astute, how you say, muy astuto, very clever. And then he started asking us first, what have you studied, what have you practiced? And then he listened. I remember we were walking in the mountain, and then he listened and listened, oh, so you study this, and then what about this? And at some point, I'm almost at the end of the walk, he said, I think it could be good for you to study Abhidhamma. He just says that, and then we are like, what? And then he said, come to the monastery. We already were going with him, and then we can study. Okay, we go with him, and then we bring the book. He has already a book for each of us. Okay, here's your book, here's your book.
No, he didn't give us the book, remember? He gave us notes.
His
like,
notes.
like
And
his
then,
notes, so he gave us notes.
yeah. But then later he had the book. I remember.
When we finished the third chapter with his notes,
Yes.
then he one day we went to class and then we studied.
He comes out with 3 books.
And then he took the books from his shelf and then he said, actually, I bought this book for you since 1 year ago, but I kept it in my shelf because now you will be able to understand it. So
Yes, thank you. So we started with his notes, like what we are having now, and then later maybe we do that also. Yes,
so
let's
don't
do it.
download the book yet.
Let's do it. Don't get it. And then like a year after, he said, now you can start going by yourself. After a year, we went. Okay, so one of the things when Seattle says it's a book from monks for monks. When we went to Seattle, he said, we told him, Seattle, we want to learn Abhidhamma. Because if you don't ask a monk, the monk will never do something, generally. And then, so when you ask, he has to be, Seattle, please, we want to learn Abhidhamma. And then, next question, he tells us, do you have time? And then we say, yes, Seattle, anytime you have. Since we were working in music, we were freelancing, so we had plenty of time free and we could arrange our project or everything. So then he said, okay, if you have time, I will teach you as I learned. I will teach you as monks are taught. But please remember, the people who don't know me as a layperson, we were layperson, we were married, we were together. So as layperson, he told us, I will teach you as monks. I was not a monk back then. So he started getting all this detail, and this is the way we learned. That's why it took the 6 years that we learned with him. But don't worry, it took 6 years because we were traveling. Don't worry. It took 6 years because we were traveling a lot because of the music. We were going to Burma, we go to the monastery. He goes to his monastery, so we had many periods of no class. So anyway, we have already found a way to incorporate, and using graphics, it goes much faster than if we are reading. So it don't.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so this is the Abhidhamma Sangaha that we are going to study together. And don't worry, all the little monks in Burma, they study this. so even the 8 years old, 9 years old, they all start with this text. And it's amazing. Like if you go to the monasteries, all this monks, they're reciting, they're studying, and then they're, what are you studying? Abhidhamma. so since young, they study Abhidhamma. And so, let's see. Yes. The Abhidhamma Sangaha, Venerable Anuruddha in the 11th century, he wrote it in Pali. And the first English translation came out around 1910. It was translated by Burmese Shui Zhang Mu. And during the 1910, the Pali Text Society in London, in England, they printed the first translation of the Abhidhamma Sangaha. And then later on, in 1942, another Venerable Kashyap, he made another translation of the same Abhidhamma Sangaha. And then later on, Venerable Narada Thera in 1956, and then he translated the menu of the Abhidhamma, which is the Abhidhamma Sangaha. Actually, they are the same, but different versions of the translation. So this is the one that is closer by Venerable Narada Thera, and based on this book, Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi did a revision of his book, which is now called the Comprehensive Manual of the Abhidhamma. In 1993, was printed and it was edited. Actually, he didn't translate or wrote it, so he edited Venerable Narada's book, and it's called it's edited by Bhikkhu Bodhi, and the charts are actually by Venerable Usilananda. So this is the book which later on we are going to use as reference.
Isn't it tasty that we are going to be working with a book written in 1910? It's like...
No, 11th century.
Yeah, but the translation. Imagine just that, a book de 1910. We will be working with a book on Isn't it tasty? Like, oh, what is this? What they were thinking about on those days, and which way?
Well, actually, what they were thinking might only be the way, the language they used for the translation. But now this is much modern. Yes, the English is revised. It's much modern
Like
because they are
Nicobodi.
only translating, so they are not writing anything from the 11th century and the 11 original text of the Pali of the Abhidhamma Sangaha, which is based on the 7 books of Abhidhamma. Venerable Ananda also didn't invent anything. He only summarized the 7 books, so which is 2,500 years ago. So actually, we are studying some,
Anyway.
the teachings of 2,500
Any day is
years ago.
tasty.
Yes. Okay. Now, what is next? Yes. And so what we are going to do here is that we are going to share with you how we have learned mostly from Sayadaw Kamsachara, because we learned directly from him personally. He had taught us throughout this year. We have great gratitude and appreciation for him. He taught us with great patience. We asked so many questions, and we stayed with him like 6 hours, 7 hours, and he kept answering, and studying. And still today, still now, he is giving us class every Friday by Skype. So he is the teacher who has actually, in terms of scripture, taught us the most, almost everything we know that he taught us. And also, he was also student of Sayadaw Nandamala Yuamsa, and so also he also sent us to take classes with his own teacher in Sayadaw in Burma. And then also, of course, Venerable Sayadaw Usilananda, he has did great contribution to the West, because he was sent by Mahasi Theology to the States. I think it was in the 50s. I'm not so sure. I don't remember the time, but anyway, he passed away in 2005, but he spent a lot of time in United States, and actually he taught a lot of Abhidhamma classes in English. And that's why we
Very
have
good English.
and that's why we have very good notes or translations and explanations in English by Venerable Usilananda.
There is a course, 3-book course.
The handbooks of the Abhidhamma, which is the transcript of one of his course given in the States, and we actually use also this. This is Visuddhimagga. Actually, we also use these 3 books, the notes of those classes, to help the preparation for this class, and also Venerable Sayadaw Titila. He is also another very great monk, great teacher. As you can see, he is from a little bit earlier time. So he was a very, very learned monk from Burma, and in the 50s, 30s, sorry, late in the 30s, he went to Sri Lanka. Of course, in Burma, before going to other countries, in Burma, he was very learned, and then he is teaching, and he knows about the Abhidhamma, about all the scriptures and everything. And in the 30s, he went to Sri Lanka and India, and to further study English and all these things. And in the late 30s, he went to England, and he has been living in England for a long time, and also teaching the Abhidhamma in the West, in Europe. And Venerable Sayadaw Utitila, he actually translated the 2nd book of the Abhidhamma, Pitaka, Vibhanga, the analysis of the Dhamma. He translated it into English from Pali. So also a great teacher, and he has a series of talk on chitta, on the consciousness, the first chapter of the Abhidhamma Sangaha, which is very, very nice. And so we are also using some of his teaching, some of his notes to help prepare this class.
Sayadaw Titila's English is...
It is like an English.
Wow.
So when you listen to the recordings...
But his words, you need to have a dictionary beside, because his vocabulary is very, very refined. Beautiful. We have the recordings. It is unbelievable how he teaches.
And the
very
next
beautiful.
class we can put
the books. You have the books in your room, no? The Abhidhamma books.
Actually, I think we didn't bring it. We'll check anyway. So this is the reference from some
Question?
Yes, in Spanish are there translations of any of these books?
Yes, none of these books. Well, this book is translated in Spanish. The only thing we have right now is that it's not yet the time to go with it. We can get, and you can take a look. We have it in PDF. in English and in Spanish we don't have it
No,
in
and,
Spanish.
and actually,
But the one with that they sent recently, Sayali sent, there is a course from Sadhu Silananda which is
this is only
translated.
notes.
which
It's
is-
not the full course.
But from the course there is all the notes that Sadhu Silananda gave. So there is not much, but we need to work more on this.
This Abhidhamma Sangaha itself in Spanish, Seado in Veracruz, he is doing an edition of the version, and so hopefully in soon in the coming future he will publish it again, because it was published but now it stopped
It is-
they stopped printing it, so there is no more copies. But then so now we wanted to make more copies, but he wanted to do a revision before the second edition.
I already asked him a few weeks ago, and he said it's possible to do copies, no problem.
We
have
can
a-
make photocopy
we-
of the first, but
I think we can make photocopies in Spanish, and then we can have it.
yeah,
And
but,
then soon is gonna come the second edition.
but at this time I don't think you need it yet. It can be a little bit.
It can be a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. So, is the knowledge of Abhidhamma important? This question was asked to Seado Silananda. And then Seado said, if you ask me, I would say yes. Abhidhamma is not only necessary in my opinion, but essential for a correct and thorough understanding of the Buddha's teaching. How? And so Seado said, it is not only necessary, but in his opinion, it is essential for a correct and thorough understanding of the Buddha's teaching. Also, that means not only the Abhidhamma, but also the suttas and also the Vinayas and all other things. But how? Why is it? So now here we will give you an example. You see this phrase where very often in the Dhammapada actually it said, do not do any bad, do what is good. Sava papasa akaranam kusalasa upasampada. This phrase is in the Sutta Pitaka because it belongs to the Dhammapada. Yes, so we can find this phrase. So if we only read this without understanding of the Abhidhamma, it's like okay, we don't do bad and we do what is good. But by the way, what is good and what is bad? And so it's a little bit difficult to understand because sutta in the time of the Buddha, when the Buddha speak these words, those people they have practiced it throughout many lifetimes, and then they have their practice, and then they have understanding, and it's most of the time it's only like the wisdom, the jar of the wisdom container, it only needs the last drop. So when the Buddha said some words, then they understood, and then they attained more wisdom. But at this time, since our wisdom jar is not that full yet, so we need a little bit more
We have
explanation.
much more distractions nowadays than 2,500 years ago.
Say- Okay, so let's take a little look in the Pali word. Sava means o, papa evil, bad. A karana. Karana is to do, and a is not, is the negation form. So do not do. And kusalasa of good, upasampada acquire or generate or produce. So it's actually this translation. Do not do any bad, do what is good. So this is what the sutta taught. So now, what is good? That we can understand with the help of the Abhidhamma. Whatever is associated with the greed, hatred, and delusion is evil, is unwholesome, is akusala. We already learned about that in the Wednesday class. We already learned about the three roots, right? Loba, dosa, and moha. Yes, greed and hatred and delusion. So very specifically in the Abhidhamma, the Buddha taught that whatever mind state that is associated with these three roots are what he meant by that, what he meant by akusala. So in this way, it is being defined. So now we know whatever mind state that is associated with greed, with hatred, and delusion, then we can call it unwholesome and akusala. And whatever is associated with the opposite three good roots, that is non-greed, non-hatred, and non-delusion, can be called as kusala, as wholesome. So then it is very clear. Then we cannot say that, oh, is this good or is this bad? And then we have no doubt between no gray area of whether maybe this is good or maybe this is bad, because it is so clearly defined. And of course now greed, hatred, and delusion, and what kind of consciousness and how is it associated and everything, all these details is being explained in the Abhidhamma, which we are going to study, and it will become even more clear. So when ever this kind of mind state arise in one's mind, one's own mind, then we will have no doubt, surely this is akusala, surely this is kusala. So we will not be like doing akusala and thinking, no, I'm doing good, no? Because now we have the information and then now we know how it is defined, so it gives no space of doubt, which is the beauty.
¿Estaré pensando mal? No, yo creo que no. Con esto, so our teacher, sorry, I said Spanish. Am I about to do bad? Am I doing good? With this, our teacher told us before, and this is a warning we are giving to everyone. Once you study this, there won't be fooling. Because there won't be excuses. You know what it is and you know what the mind is doing. You will catch it, and we must be responsible for the outcome. It's gonna come. So from now on, ladies and gentlemen, everybody wants to continue. If you want to continue, we go. But we need to become more responsible, and eventually it gives good fruits will give good fruits for all of us.
Yeah. Okay, so this is how and why Seattle said, in order to understand the Buddha's teaching thoroughly, and the Abhidhamma is very helpful because it defines and it gives more explanation and clarity on the suttas even. So many times Sayadaw Kamsachara, he told us that if you don't know the Abhidhamma, you won't be able to understand the suttas deeply, in a profound way. You might be able to understand it superficially, like the words, but you won't be understanding exactly what it means. So it is very helpful to understand both.
And also there is a lot of discussion when people only study the sutta, even among Buddhist branches and circles and students and individuals, there is a lot of debate because words like this, do not do any bad, do what is good. If we don't define good and bad first, and we are starting from factual information from the bottom, anything can happen, as it has happened with many religions. Everybody starts to fight between words, not with facts of nature. So once we are based like scientists, have you ever seen scientists fighting because of gravity? Or what they know or they don't know? They don't fight because the numbers shows the information, so they can collaborate. So looking into the mind and matter in this way is kind of a scientific method.
Yes. Yes, it is scientific because if we base on personal ideas of what is good and what is bad, then it's finished, because then everybody do as you wish, because I consider this good, I consider this bad. But now the Buddha goes to the roots of the consciousness to see like what it is associated with and how it is defined.
But let's remember that there is a Mexican saying that says, don't do things that are good that, how? No hagas cosas buenas que parezcan malas, ni malas que parezcan buenas. ¿Cómo traducimos? Don't do things that are good that looks good but are bad, or things that are bad but looks good. Something like that.
Okay. Wow. So, another question. Is the knowledge of Abhidhamma necessary for meditation? So let's see what is meditation first. So we already saw that in the Wednesday class we already explored that there are two kinds of meditation: samatha meditation and vipassana meditation, right? So samatha is concentration, it's a concentration meditation, and vipassana meditation is another kind of meditation, insight meditation is translated into English. So for samatha meditation, which deals with concentration, it might not be so necessary because you have to focus and concentrate on one object and just forget about all the other objects and have the mind focused. And in this way, because the mind is focused on this object, is not thinking about anything bad at that moment. So all the greed is not thinking about strawberry cake or whatever. There's no greed, and there is if you're practicing properly. So there is no greed, no hatred, and no delusion at that time because the mind is focused. But it doesn't mean that when you are not practicing, it won't come back. Yes. So this is samatha meditation, and vipassana meditation is to see reality as it is. This is the purpose of vipassana meditation. So of course, a certain degree of concentration is necessary. Otherwise, if we're not concentrated, we won't be able to understand how reality is. If we are thinking about this and then thinking about that and thinking about that, then of course it's not going to work. But those kind of concentration doesn't mean that we are concentrated on only one object without changing. Yes? So it's a different kind of concentration that is necessary for Vipassana meditation. So in this case, Vipassana meditation, the aim is to understand reality as it is for what? For what? So understanding reality as it is gives wisdom, right? When we understand how things work, then we understand that it's not only because of me. Things happen not because that I want to that it happens. Then we start to see reality more real, let's say. Because many times we think, okay, I want something and then I go and I get it, and because I do it, then I get it. No, well, if the shop is closed, and what about, there are so many conditions that have to come together for things to happen. Now I'm saying about like a very simple action of buying something, but even the mind and matter is all conditions coming together. So it's not really so well. In further contents we will look at this, but it's not really as we think it is sometimes. Yes. So to understand this, to understand reality as it is, when we understand, then we can take away slowly our wrong ideas about how reality is, and at the same time to decrease and to eradicate the defilements or the negativity of the mind, and to cultivate the good ones of the mind, which is at the end taking out the roots of all the 3 bad roots and cultivate the 3 good roots, which leads to, at the end, freedom from suffering. But because what makes us suffer is the 3 bad roots, is the defilements. So this is the aim of Vipassana, and the Abhidhamma explains how reality is. It's like a person that is going on a journey. Yes, he can walk and he can find his way. He can try, if it's not this way, this another way, then he can walk and he can try. It might take longer for him to arrive if he doesn't have a map. But if this person, he knows where he wants to go and he has a map, then there are more possibilities that he will arrive sooner, because he knows what he is looking for and he knows the way. So Abhidhamma is like the map, but be careful. Reading the map doesn't mean that we arrived already. Yes. So understanding or intellectually understanding how reality is doesn't mean that we understand reality how it is in reality, in an experiential way. But it is very helpful, because if we have information, then when we practice or when we meditate, then we know what we are looking for, and when something happens, we know what it is, and we know which way is the correct way and which way is not the correct way. And so it is the map. So in this case, this is the knowledge of Abhidhamma necessary for meditation. I'll leave it to answer for yourself. Okay, then we'll come now. Until here was like an introduction of where Abhidhamma come from, what is it about, is it necessary, and until here. And from this slide, we are going to enter into the content of the Abhidhamma itself. But as Bante said, well, I prepared a lot of content for today, but Bante already said, oh no, you're not going to finish it. And I said, yeah, maybe I can. Well, so actually I won't be able to finish it today. So it depends on you. If you want to take a little break and we can continue a little bit to see a little bit of content, or we can stop here and then we will go into the content next week. It depends on you.
I have time.
It's okay.
Yes? Alright, okay, so let's take a 5 minutes break. We have some tea. Please serve yourself, and then we'll see you again in